To the Almighty Psyche podcast. Today, we are welcoming one a huge, amazing. I don't know why huge, but hugely amazing individual with. You should be watching this. Um, with amazing purple hue all around her, like purple lipstick, purple hair, purple shirt. Purple is just surrounding her. You know what? That was the first thing that just engulfed my eyeballs, and I tell you what, it makes me happy. It brings me joy. So today we're going to find out a lot more about the interior. The exterior is beautiful, and we all know this, but we're going to find the beauty of the interior and really dive in and see what Becca has to share with the world.
Guys,
I've
hello.
Amen. I've noticed. So I've seen a lot of things online, and when I say a lot, that's probably a lie. There's been a few things I've seen online that I've seen you interact with your audience and just with your puppies. I love your puppies
I
so
do love
much.
them. It's a great couple.
They're so cute. My gosh.
I
And
know. It's not fair.
I actually so whatever. Well, I actually drew a cover image for the podcast already. I took a picture of yours with one of your puppies. So I spent some
Nice.
time with his little fluffy face and I'm just like, you guy, I love you so much. I'm gonna send it to you.
No, I can't wait.
Yes. But yeah, I want to jump in and just kind of explore, what it is that you're doing in this world. Because I see that you're going out there and you're meeting your fans or just your community, your friends, and you're trying to share something beautiful with them. Just a almost a permission to live their own life to their
Yeah.
fullest, you know. And I'm referring to one of the videos I watched maybe just like about a week ago or so when you're on a hike, which was very enjoyable. Um, I guess I want to start with who are you? Who the fuck are you? Okay, who are you?
You. How dare you? So I'm Becca Switzer. I was born in Newfoundland, Canada. Is this going to be a dating profile? Should I just start typing this out so I can copy it to Hinge? Uh,
Hey, that's cool.
I was born in Newfoundland, Canada, and I lived there until I was like 6. And then my parents moved me to the States. I had a very interesting childhood in a tumultuous home. My
Ooh.
mother has borderline personality disorder, so it was like very crazy for a young child to be in. But I grew up in the States, mostly in Iowa, and then went to college for like 2 years. Didn't really know what I was going to do, but I always had a passion for writing.
Mhm.
Like that was like I loved humor and I loved writing and I loved entertaining and stuff like that. And I loved singing, but I felt like
Mhm.
pursuing something in the entertainment business would be more of an uphill battle than I was prepared to go on. And so I actually went to University of Iowa for like 2 years and I was going to study journalism, but I ended up dropping out after my sophomore year and selling Cutco knives. And I did that for like 2 years, met my former husband. We're no longer together, but he was my manager. So I, did the whole marry your manager thing. And from there, realized like, holy shit, I'm really good at sales, which I always kind of knew. When I was a kid, I was hustling stuff all the
Mhm.
time, whether it was like I was building sailboats or making my brother build the sailboats and then I would go sell them to neighbors for profit. Or like I used to go and catch minnows out of the stream and sell those after school as pets, which most of those guys probably didn't make it. Sorry, minnows.
Oh.
I was only 6. Give me a break. And so I always kind of had everybody always used to say like, oh, she's a natural born salesperson, and that led me into becoming a roof sales gypsy. I was chasing storms all over the country, chasing hailstorms and selling roofs for several years. And during that time, I realized like there's no sales training in this industry. Like
Mhm.
if you wanted to be a real estate agent, let's just say, you could go and get a coach, you could go to seminars, buy books, get DVDs, go to trainings. Like it's endless. You can learn how to do it. But if you wanted to go and sell roofs, which that sounds like such an
Mhm.
obscure business, but you can make like 6 figures in 6 months selling roofs. It's ridiculous.
I believe that.
And so I was like, there's no training for it though. Like when you show up to a company, they go, follow Jared around for a couple days and listen to him. And then here's a stack of contracts, like go knock 100 doors a day, you'll figure it out. And I was like, what? And so I realized like I have a ton of stuff that I can teach because I had to go through the school of hard knocks with that whole thing. And so I ended up, this is a very long story short here, but I ended up creating a company called Roof Sales Mastery where I teach everybody my roof sales info. So everything from lead generation to knocking to objection handling and then dealing with insurance companies and stuff like that. And I love it because I have a huge passion for psychology. Not that I formally studied it, but it's just been something that naturally, and maybe this partially developed growing up with in the living situation that I did. Growing up with a mother that has borderline personality. There's a ton of like narcissism and manipulation, and you have to get very, very good at understanding people to avoid pain, honestly. And so I really always understood like why people do the things they do. I can get in people's head. I understand what they're probably thinking, feeling. And so that helped me to translate my skill in a way that if you asked me 15 years ago, what are you going to be doing when you're 30? I'd be like, I don't know, writing books. But I did, but it was for the roof sales industry. So, but that started in 2014. And since then, I'm really finding my voice right now more in like, I'm able to deliver my message about personal empowerment and really just living an authentic life through my roof sales platform. But I'm beginning kind of a journey into wanting to expand to more of kind of an existential level, like teaching my philosophies on why we're here and how to live a good life and being capable. And you can really create whatever life you want. There's no one way to live. And really just helping people feel good, feeling capable and stuff like that. So other than that, I'm a Leo. I love dogs, and I am very type A, and I like a clean house. Vacuuming is my love language.
Oh.
You want to know.
I mean, everything, obviously. Like, there's not enough time in the world to dig deep into another individual. I mean, you could sit here for literal eternity and just really get into the depths of what each, I don't know, even decision led to in a person's life, which is why I just appreciate just everybody just being open and vulnerable, because that's where a lot of beauty can be found. So already, thank you. Fascinating. I wanted to touch on, I'll touch on some of those things. I also found a lot of, I guess my start to psychology was more through sales as well. Like I used to do door-to-door Comcast, and one of the things that I was going to do also was Cutco, because they're like, well, you're in Comcast, you might as well go do Cutco and go do Kirby and this, that, the other thing. And I too, I ended up kind of being the manager, and my girlfriend was the person who kind of got me into the job, and we didn't elope, thankfully, but we spent like a good 4 years together going through that whole sales tactic. And for me, it was what that was what kind of made me understand, I guess, the beginning of understanding people's motivations and psychologies as well, just that in-person interaction. Because you go in there and you meet 100 let's say 100 people a day, and you start to notice these patterns that kind of start to evolve and present themselves, and you're like, whoa, dude, I thought we're in this world and everybody's this, that, the other thing. Your mind will go off and make a whole bunch of assumptions left and right, and then you start to see that there's so many people on the same wavelength that think the same, that say the same things, that rebuttal on the same things, and then you just start to learn that, hey, there is a pattern, So I find that fascinating, and that's when I also decided to walk away from sales, because at that time I was a shady guy. So I was not using it for the best of the world. And then, just kind of started thinking, hey, how do I apply this in a more positive way? Which then went more into the existentialism, like you mentioned, and just kind of trying to unravel everything to share with people. Just like, hey, here's the pattern of thought that you have. How do we overcome this little obstacle so that you can feel better or think better or just create the life that you want to live? So, and that's where I think that's where you and I connected, because I saw just the way you would interact with people, and you just came with so much energy, so much love, and so much appreciation toward people. And I was like, this lady right here, she's got something in the brain. Let's talk to her with her brain. That's beautiful. And I think I should definitely also share you with my buddy, because he's a roofer.
Nice.
Yeah, so I figured maybe he'll learn some things. Maybe he'll start his own business because of your direction.
I mean, that's what I do, baby.
I believe it. Purple is a powerful color, and you wear it well, so I believe it. You've ascended past all the other chakras. You're in the crown chakra. You're sitting there, be like, lady, I'm shooting into heaven. just creating the universe with your gaze alone. You're very welcome. Very welcome. So, wow. Okay, so that was a nice dating profile. Hopefully you won't get too many DMs, but hey, maybe you want them. I don't know.
Maybe I do. We don't know.
Maybe you do.
I'm a woman of mystery.
I do want to comment on your necklace. That looks very pretty. Is that a little crescent moon?
Thank you. It is. I love the moon. Got a little crescent moon back here.
I love
I'm a big fan of her. She's a good gal, She comes out. She's pretty. She's a nice shape.
You can keep talking about that. I have a
Pure
crush on the moon.
science of the phases. Yeah.
Dude, I love the moon so much. Honestly, I had a nice maybe year and a half, maybe 2 years of just fascination. I mean, I put her into my songs. I had drawings of her. I put it all over my shirts, my clothes, whatever. I
Yeah.
I whatever this podcast has turned to, whatever. I'm just gonna keep talking.
Let's see where it goes.
Exactly. My favorite thing about life is just to see where it goes, because structuring it in a more detailed fashion, it hasn't panned out for me and very well. So I just kind of float. But I remember a few years ago, I was super disciplined, which I kind of tend to go back and forth between extremes. A super disciplined, like 4 a.m. workout for a good 2-3 hours, go to work, come back, like music, whatever else I was doing. And this was happening for a long time, and I was enjoying it. And then one day I'm driving from my home in Tacoma, Washington, down to Auburn, where I worked as a teacher at that time. And just this full moon just peeking over the freeway. And I'm driving, and I cannot look away. Literally, I'm going 60 miles an hour. This thing's shining in my eyes, and I'm telling myself, Andrei, if you don't look away, you're going to crash your fucking car, and you're going to die.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but it's so
It's
mesmerizing.
Tractor beam sucked me right in.
Exactly. So I thankfully I got off the freeway and I parked, and I just parked in the gym parking lot, and I'm just looking at her, and I'm just like, gosh, what am I to do? So I just start drawing, and like instead of working out, 2 hours later, had a nice little drawing set up. Wasn't finished because I ended up putting another like 200 hours into the thing. But that just began this fascination, this almost a longing for the moon, or symbolically what it meant.
Yeah.
It's the feminine, So it just continued, took me over, and for those 2 years, I've been exploring like the feminine aspect, the feminine side of life, just kind of letting things come to you, being open, being vulnerable, and just kind of again just seeing what happens. And I tell you what, and you can touch on this, you being a woman, because you know this a lot more than I do. I'm a stranger here. But just kind of being so, I don't know, being so open and becoming that almost like a vacuum that the universe fills. Instead of going out there and just tackling the life to the ground and forcing things to happen, you're just kind of sucking it into you in a sense. I don't know. Can you touch on that a little bit?
I would love to. This is actually something that I've really been leaning into more. So just we can get as deep as we want to into this, but I'm a very assertive masculine energy. I'm more comfortable in my masculine energy, and I always have been. Ever since I was a little kid, I was always like the leader of the pack, directing things, organizing plays, organizing parades, telling people how, I was probably considered bossy by some of the kids, but I just had vision and I had creativity, and I was like, I could see how I wanted things to go. And that started, growing up the way that I did, again, in the household that I did, it turned into like, my parents weren't very loving people, but I did get a lot of positive feedback for things that I did or accomplished. And so I really leaned into my achievements, my grades, like doing things. That's how I got love, right, when I was younger. And so this all developed into, feel like my natural personality was in that energy anyway, but I began just really being assertive and like creative and always taking action. But that began to be my survival tactic almost. I don't think I ever really learned how to feel okay just being or relaxing or receiving. And that's all feminine energy stuff, right? Like your yin is like the receiving and allowing and the flow. And I was always forcing things to happen. And I got married, I ended up getting divorced, but throughout that whole relationship that I had, which was such a giant learning experience, I'm so happy that it happened the way that it happened. Like when I got divorced, I was like, I didn't understand how to just feel my feelings, like sit and allow my feelings. And so that masculine energy side is like, fix the problem. And so going through this divorce, I had never experienced grief like that in my life, even though I was the one who chose to leave the marriage. I just wasn't prepared for the emotions that were going to come, and not being comfortable in my feminine energy was like creating this insane like attempt to solve my pain. And so I was trying to fix it, whether that meant blaming the other person or attacking the other person, right? Trying to make him the bad guy, or like I wasn't just allowing my body to feel the pain and sit with it and process it and allow it to go through me. It was like, so I had the worst year ever. I mean, I was so unbelievably depressed and anxious, like panic attacks almost every single day. It was really, really bad. And so over the last, that was, I guess, 3.5 years ago now that I left my marriage. But during this time, I've really been realizing like, oh, my assertive, dominant, masculine energy has served me so well up until this point in certain ways, with my business and my career and my sales and stuff like that. But now it's like, I need to really relax into balancing that feminine side, which is allowing other people to take care of me, show up for me, feel my feelings, not constantly be measuring myself on my achievements. Because I have dealt with so much pressure on myself that I didn't even realize. I remember when my ex was saying like, you're so hard on yourself. And I was like, what do you mean? I just didn't understand. I was like, and it took me a long time to realize. And then enough people said like, you hold yourself to such an impossible standard. Like you're lovable just for being, just for existing. And it has taken me so many years to actually arrive at that. And that's kind of, I feel like, the message that I feel more inspired to sort of share right now, which is it's not be a bump on a log and do nothing, but understanding that you're already so amazing because you're an extension of the universe. Like the same thing that's beating your heart right now is the same thing that makes the grass grow all on its own and tells birds to migrate all on their own and rises the sun all on its own. Like you're part of that. You're not separate from it. And because of that, when you realize that, everything that you do on top of it is just this gift that you give back to all there is. Because you're saying, I want to be as creative as humanly possible and be so authentically myself and have such an authentic human experience that's my contribution to the expansion of the universe, right? And so if settling into that, getting into that flow state, that makes everything else fun. Your achievements become passions instead of just check marks that you're trying to cross things off a list or social currency so you can say, I did this or whatever, right? So all that to say, I think learning to embrace that feminine energy is something that I'm also on a path of doing right now, because otherwise it's like, certain parts serve you, but without that balance of it, you can't live a whole life,
No, I completely agree. My gosh. And so well spoken. I feel like that is exactly what I need to hear, like right at this moment. Because especially, I take the world as it is, and I find appreciation. I find joy in everything that may happen, whether sad or happy or whatever that, the universe decides to present itself, because, I'm still here. How many years later, the amount of suffering, the battles that I've overcome, I'm still here, and I extract enjoyment out of that. But I don't know, maybe the last few days if something's been going on jarring with the energies, and I'm sitting here just like questioning everything that I've become, questioning everything that I have done. And even just think, why can't A, B, or C happen? Or why can't I do this or this or the other thing? Completely forgetting to just kind of sit back into it and allow for, I don't know, for the music, or even just for this conversation, just kind of sit in and permeate through my skin and just kind of be with that instead of, again, do. Because perhaps maybe this whole COVID situation where we're just stuck in home maybe got me to this doing situation. I have to do something. I have to prove my value to myself.
Right.
The same thing as you were saying, just kind of get lost in the action of it all and kind of place value on the achievement, whatever it may be. And maybe this is where I am right now. Just kind of forgot the feminine side, just kind of start being. So this is definitely very valuable, just even personally to me at this moment. It's very beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I think I'm going to spiral off something that you just said. So you're talking about the concept of like, you have to be doing something of value just to feel good about yourself. And the truth is, I think human beings, we are creators, right? Like that's what we are. We make things, we make art, literature, music, buildings, right? Like we're always, no matter what you do as a human being, you're inside, you're just made to create things, right? And to learn and to grow and to expand. And I think though we frame it in a way that's like, if I'm not doing X, Y, Z, then I'm not good enough. and then it doesn't make creation fun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about, well, I should just be able to sit on the couch and do nothing, because your body doesn't like that either, right? It doesn't. Like, so if you can release the resistance of, well, I shouldn't have to do this to be good enough, and instead you really allow yourself to feel called to do things and do them when you feel called to do them, it creates a completely different interaction in your body and mind about it, right? Like, you're doing it because you enjoy doing it now. And that's why I think finding your passion, and we can talk about that too, because I think that's also a loaded term, but finding your passion is something that allows you to step out of the, I should be doing this, I should be doing this, like I'm not doing enough. And it allows you to really just enjoy the process of creating and becoming more of who you are. Mm-hmm. And also understanding that there's no final destination. Mm-hmm. There's no sense in questioning anything that you've done or made of yourself in the past. Like, you're just doing things, and there's no one way to live. Mm-hmm. Right? So the whole point of being alive is just to live. And there's no, like, if you get to the end and it's like, damn it, you were meant to do this and you didn't do it and you squandered your life. That is just not the truth. We don't do that to Great Danes. We're not like, you stupid dog, you were supposed to go and do that. They live a life, they pee on stuff, they hump things sometimes, they eat some food, they chase squirrels, and then they die. Humans listen to music, and we have sex, and we eat, and we go and do this job, and then we didn't like that, and then we did this, and we didn't like that, and we go and we live here, and maybe we liked that for a while, and now we feel called to move over here. It's all okay. Mm-hmm. Abraham Hicks, are you familiar with Abraham? Yeah. Well, okay. So they always talk about, the whole point of love, your life is just to feel good. And what genuinely feels good inside your body by paying attention to your inner being, right? So it's that inner compass. You can call it whatever you want to, your intuition, but things that feel good feel inspired, right? And if you just fill your life doing those things, whether it's the people you surround yourself with, the food you put in your body, what you decide to do for a living, where you decide to live, what kind of things you listen to, right? You'll just create a beautiful life experience. There's no pass or fail at the end. And if you don't feel like you're doing something of meaning right now, or you don't feel like you've found something that really makes you feel that great, then take care of your body. That's one thing you can be doing. Exercise, eat well, fill your mind with good things, and then just see where the universe takes you from there.
It's so beautifully said. Just take it one step at a time. Fill your existence with whatever you do know fills you with love or enjoyment, and then just keep milking it. One more enjoyment piece, another enjoyment piece, whatever it may be.
Exactly.
Just keep pulling it in.
And understanding that it's not like, oh, I found it and I'm there now. It's every single day making individual choices that feel aligned with whoever you are, and not comparing yourself either to anybody else. Right. I think there's this interesting phenomenon. It's something that this might be a little bit half-baked, because there's still, philosophies that I'm expanding on and working on. But with the stuff that I'm writing right now, so I was dating somebody for a while who I love this person still to this day. They're an amazing person, but they were very caught up in like spiritual materialism, which is trying to maybe having the idea that like spirituality or the idea of enlightenment or finding your divinity or something like that is something that's out there. And you have to dress the part and say the right words and hang around the right people and go to the right places and do yoga, wear crystals and wear burlap and whatever. And I was always very like frustrated by that, because what I know to be true is we are already God. We are an extension of all that there is, right? The idea of God to me is just self-awareness. It's consciousness. God is in everything, right? Grass is God. Cows are God. My dog is God. Like Amen. we're all just alive, right? So again, it's when I said earlier, whatever's beating our hearts right now and blooming the flowers and rising the moon, all in perfect orchestration, is happening because of this unknown, mysterious life force that we call God or spirit or the universe or whatever you want to call it, right? And so this idea that you have to do certain things and look a certain way or sound a certain way to be spiritual is something that I've been really just working on exploring further to help people understand, like, you are already perfect because you're alive. And all the other stuff is just noise and costumes, right? It doesn't matter what you wear or what you listen to or anything. It's your expression. You know, Andrei's experience has to be authentically Andrei's experience, and that's your gift. If you're trying to look like Deepak Chopra over here, there's already a Deepak Chopra. He's already here. What are you doing, right? Like, be you. And whatever that evolving expression is constantly going to be, like, that's the beauty of it. And so really helping people understand that it's not a place. It's not something that you reach. It's actually almost an undoing. You know, they talk about the idea of enlightenment is not like, I think people think it has to be this mystical experience. Like, oh, well, if I meditate hard enough and I eat enough mushrooms and I chant long enough and I fast long enough and I stick a crystal in my cervix, then I see this white light and God is going to visit me, and then I've done it. I've achieved enlightenment. But and there are mystical experiences, right? And if you've done psychedelics, you've definitely had, you know, experiences where you're like, whoa, I got to see different realms or parts of consciousness that otherwise I wouldn't be able to see. But stepping back from that and realizing that your enlightenment is simply realizing that you exist. It's just, I am, right? That's pure God. Pure God, pure spirit is, I am, I exist. It's just awareness, right? When we talk about those concepts of bearing witness to your experience, it's like, imagine you're a little baby and you just got squeezed out of the womb, right? And you open your eyes for the first time ever. You don't have a personality. You don't have experience. You don't have opinions, right? You're just alive and witnessing what's going on. That's pure awareness. That's pure consciousness. That is your most authentic self right there. Everything else that we've accumulated, these opinions and personalities and ideologies and judgments and stuff like that. And those are just expressions of all that is, which is just consciousness. So when you realize that that's all you really are, and you go, oh shit, I'm just here now to have fun and experience stuff. And that's all. And then you can remove the pressure of becoming this like spiritual thing. You're already spiritual because you exist, right? Oh, totally. Now you get to choose the type of experiences that you have.
Beautiful. My gosh. I honestly, that was like a guided meditation all on its own. And that was just a great journey. Like, honestly, I'm happy you're writing a book about this because it definitely needs to exist. And I'm sure it's going to be amazing. So kudos. Wow. I'm enthralled. Like, this is exactly what I needed, like, at this moment. Maybe the universe is like, hey, Andrei, let's take you down 7 notches. And so you can go and feel like I don't want to say depressed, but just like incredibly vulnerable. Because before this, I'm just like, so that you can come in and just kind of, we have this interaction. This is beautiful. So I want to touch on this. So when we were talking about earlier, you know, just kind of exploring the feminine and finding this, just allowing people to take care of you. How did you personally get into a place where you could, I don't know, ask for help, or receive that help, or just be, maybe, I don't know if it's just swallowing your pride or whatever it is, you know, coming from the masculine side, but just ask for help. How does a person do that?
Well, this is still an ongoing journey that I have a lot of room for improvement in. Okay. But I'll start with the first time I really had to let somebody really help me was when I got divorced, and I was such a mess. Like, I couldn't get out of bed. Like, the only reason, I could cry now, but my dog, it was like the only thing I had to get out of bed to take care of him, right? And so the person that I was dating at the time, long story short, before I got divorced, we tried an open relationship that really didn't work. I fell in love with somebody else, and I ended up having my house here in Colorado, but then an apartment in Kansas City where I was dating this other person named Rhett. And he was 8 years younger than me. So this kid was basically like, oh my God, I have to take care of this woman, right? But I was like in such a bad place. Like, I can't describe to you how dark of a tunnel I was in. It just seemed like it was never going to end. and I couldn't take care of myself. I mean, I could not take care of myself. And so I finally, like, I remember the first few weeks after I left my marriage, it was like, you're riding on this high of like, oh yeah, new adventure, new life. And then eventually it was like, I couldn't hide. Like, it was just coming. The grief was coming, and I'd never experienced that in my life. And so I remember finally being like, when he would come over and hang out with me, I was constantly on the verge of an absolute breakdown, like at every moment. And finally I was like, I can't hide this anymore. Like, and so I remember one day we sat on the floor and we were just like sitting there looking at each other. And I just told him, I'm like, I am not anywhere out of the woods with this thing. Like, I'm not doing okay. And he would come over, and it was obvious that I had been in bed all day, like sobbing. And he would come over and cook me dinner, go walk my dog, wash blankets, you know, do my laundry for me. Like, he was just really, really helpful. And I would resist that at first. And I would resist even crying in front of him, but he would just let me do it. And I'd never experienced that before my whole life. Like, when I was a child, there wasn't, again, if you're not familiar with like borderline personality disorder, if you've seen the movie Mother Dearest or Mommy Dearest, like the wire hanger scene, that's my mom. And my dad he worked full time, so he wasn't home as often, but when he was, it was like trying to just not make my mom super angry. So I was never allowed to express myself. And if I did express my feelings, I was upset or, you know, something had been done in injustice to me or whatever, I was gaslighted. Like, no, you don't feel that way, like invalidated all the time, or even punished for expressing myself. So I only learned how to be tough, like just get your shit together. Right. And so the experience of allowing this next relationship to just be a place where I could fall apart and realize that this actually, me being this vulnerable, is making this person love me more, and I'm okay, and I'm not being punished for it, was a transformative stage in my life. I have so much to owe to that person. We're no longer together, but I have so much gratitude for that relationship, because I began to learn that you can trust people to care about you and not punish you for your feelings. And it's safe to express yourself. And like, you actually get rewarded for that. People, what we all want is connection, right? And how connected do we feel when we're all just having a good time, everything's fine? Well, we're having fun, but we don't really feel seen in those moments. True intimacy and vulnerability is when you go, here are all my ugly, scary, dark, shitty parts that and they're not shitty. I shouldn't say that. We can't judge those. But these are just the parts that maybe I'm not comfortable with yet sharing in myself or with others. And when you let somebody else really see that, and they hold space for you, and they make you feel still accepted, loved, and appreciated and seen, so much healing takes place there. And so that's probably the first time that I learned to. Now that was not even a choice. I was in such a bad place. I didn't have a choice, right? Like, I didn't have the energy to pretend like I needed help during that time. So now I still struggle with feelings of like, I put off the superwoman energy. Like, I can do everything myself, and people probably look at me and say, I don't even want to try to help her because she probably thinks she would do it better than me anyway. And part of that is true. I'm a control freak, type A type person, and I do feel that way. But learning to like delegate and allow people to feel useful, and also realizing that I feel great when somebody lets me help them, or if they come to me and say, I need your support right now, like I'm going through a tough time. So flipping it and realizing that, oh, I love it when my friends come to me for a shoulder to lean on. I should give them that privilege also, right? That's been something that's helped as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. Everything you just said is amazing. And honestly, the last thing you just said here is something that my friend just relayed to me as well. It's like, I love it when people come to me, so why wouldn't I come to them to give them that same experience? And man, that's wonderful. The masculine energy stuff and everything that you're saying, just the type A, I connect to it very deeply, because I feel like I've been forced. I think I've put myself in that place, obviously. I mean, we are the creator of our own universe in that sense. So I've put myself in a place where I have to depend on myself, or put a lot of weight on myself, on my own shoulders, to just, I don't know, to perform, or in whatever way it applies to that moment. So and even though I've been exploring that help and looking for that extension, it always seems like I have to be like, all right, I get that, I have to be the one to help. You know, I'm the helper, and maybe there's an idea there that I have to really just like let go personally, because it's a lot of work, and I know you can relate to that, because it's a lot of work just saying, all right, let's get this done. Let's go out there and let's punch through this thing, and let's make it work. Wow, it's beautiful.
Well, and also I think like for me, I've experienced through journaling, and I get to understand myself better. I'm like, okay, well, why am I acting this way? Or like, why do I feel like if I don't control every little thing that it's like I'm not going to be okay? And I think it's a process of all learning to, like, I have felt like if I don't control every single aspect of my life, then my needs aren't going to get met. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting because if you're talking about being in relation with other people, whether it's friends or coworkers or romantic relationships or whatever, learning to receive is really scary, because it's almost like, you know, in my marriage, I was terrible at this. I was constantly trying to get my needs met, whether it was through like passive aggression, instead of saying, hey baby, I really would like to be taken. Like, I would love to go on a date. We haven't gone on a date in a long time. Instead, it would be like, I would say something sarcastic, or I would become passive aggressive, or the silent treatment. And that was not because I was being a bitch. Mm-hmm. I was being a bitch, but it was because I didn't know how to ask for needs to be met. Because in my mind, if I had to ask, then I was going to sound like a naggy woman, right? Or what if they get mad? You know, that's what would happen when I was a kid. Like, I can't ask for anything. They're going to send me to my room for a month, or like, you know, punish me, or like say, well, you don't need that stuff, right? So it's a lot of unlearning, I think, that takes place when we're human. Even if you didn't grow up in like a crazy situation, we all have trauma. You know, if you listen to Mastin Kipp, he's a guy that, gosh, he does like neuroscience and psychology, but he's teaches people about their trauma, right? And it's like, we have all these things that we learn, and our ego just wants to keep us safe, right? And that's, in using air quotes over here, it's constantly trying to protect us from shame, or feeling embarrassed, or feeling hurt or let down, or any of those things. And so it's like, well, you need to control everything. Don't trust anybody for anything. Don't trust them to help you. And so, you know, I've learned that one of my big love languages, which I didn't even realize, my number one is words of affirmation, but my next one, at a hot close second, is acts of service. And I was like, whoa, I didn't realize how much it means to me when somebody vacuums my floors, or like goes and, you know, knows that I'm going to have to cleans up the kitchen after the dinner party, or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God. And letting people do that, I realized that I become softer, because I'm not like so like constantly trying to do everything, and then growing like the seed of resentment inside of me, right? And then I allow them, I give them the gift of feeling like they're giving me a gift. People feel pretty useless when you don't let them do anything. And that's a huge lesson that I'm learning right now, is like, don't let people feel useless. Like, don't be afraid to ask for their help and support in whatever it is, whether it's cleaning the kitchen or listening to you or whatever. Like, it makes them actually feel good. So it's a process.
It is a process. And you know what? Like, I'm so happy we connected, because honestly, usually I'm the one saying everything that you're saying, and I'm just like, yes. And today I'm so happy to be receiving your help in that aspect, and to just be blessed with this I guess vision of beauty that's really softening my heart right now. So I appreciate it so much. Like, truly, it's beautiful. You are very good at conveying your emotions and condensing them in a way that me and my listeners will feel tremendously. So I appreciate you 1,000,000%.
Thank you.
I keep wanting to ask something, but also forget. Let's see.
Well, what's going on with your life right now? Where are you at?
I mean, nothing really.
What's just going well? Where do you feel stuck?
Well, everything is going well in the sense that, you know, I'm very creative. And, you know, music-wise, all that stuff, you know, like you know, I got my guitar, I'm writing songs, I'm producing this podcast, which, okay, I want to focus on this. This podcast has been so beautiful, just revisiting this, because it's my season 3. And I've been able to just kind of condense every single one of the things that brings me passion, or my passion brings me joy. You know, my digital drawings, my music, the conversation, you know, the interview process, sharing a positive message of hope to people, you know, and then just, you know, playing around and getting technical, you know, producing some things, you know, making sure everything's polished. So like I've gotten this down to a nice little 6 7 hour process. You know, I
Yeah.
sit down, you know, I talk to you, then I take your face, your beautiful face, I draw on it, you know, and yeah, your purple hair, your purple hair. One of the things I was drawing, I was like, ooh, this is really nice, you know. And then, you know, I'll turn that into like a little video for the promotion aspect, you know. So just getting the business side and the creative side just intertwined into a place where I don't feel like I'm doing any work, right?
Yeah.
And then just living my dream life. So it's like things are going really well, and I'm connecting with beautiful human beings like yourself, like the other humans that I've had on this podcast. You know,
Yeah.
Sharon and Jeffrey and Asher and um, all of them. I'm not gonna go through every single one of them, but
Yeah.
it's magical, you know. So that's why I don't like, honestly, I don't know what's going on today. It's interesting. Like I enjoy the fluctuations that come and go, you know. And one day, like yesterday, I'll be high on life, and you know,
Yeah.
my friends will be talking about me on their podcast, and I'm just like, you remember me? That's so lovely. And then, you know, today I wake up and I'm just like, is it because it's gloomy? Is it because I,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. So I mean, my thing personally, where I'm at now, it's, you know, I'm floating around. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to just
Yeah.
make sure that I can take care of myself and my family, and, you know, anybody else that I want to promote and kind of be a bigger help. Because usually, you know, you can lean on me emotionally, but when it comes to financially speaking, like I'm just barely trying to figure out how I can do this, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's been my goal since, you know, since the Corona thing, because obviously that's been hitting everybody,
Yeah.
and it's just maybe it's that one final piece that I can't seem to grasp. And I also understand that everything is a mental projection of the world. So it's like the way that your heart is, the way that your soul is, the external universe is going to reflect that back to you. So
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here saying, okay, what am I not doing physically? It's trying to find what's in my heart that's trying to, I don't know, express itself in a way so I can catch its attention. So I can sit down and say, okay, maybe I'm not showing up to myself in this way. That's why I ask about, you know, asking for help, or
Yeah.
just being that sort of vulnerable, because I seek everything that makes me feel uncomfortable. You know, the fears,
Yeah.
vulnerabilities, anything that inspires some sort of agitation in me. I seek that and I jump into it so I could just engulf myself in it and say, all right, what is this telling me, so that I can,
Right.
you know, decide whatever the next step might be.
Right.
So yeah, right now sitting here, I'm thinking, what is happening, so that I can, you know, become one with it. Um, and that's really the end of it. You know, my only desire is so I could be more useful to people. You know, and again,
Yeah.
it's like maybe the truth there is maybe I what's the opposite of being useful to people, is other people being useful to me in that sense, right? So maybe I want to be taken care of in that sense, because I keep showing up and just saying, all right, whatever your problem is, man, just give them to me. We'll sit here, we'll think it through, we'll figure it
Right.
out, and we'll get you to the best place that you can get to. You know, that's
Yeah.
been my mantra for more than half a decade now, you know, like being a teacher and just a creator in that sense. So, wow, thank you.
Well, I think the other thing is it's easier to show up for other people than it is to show up for ourselves, because when
Mm.
it's somebody else's problem, like when someone else has a problem, I'm like, I'm there.
Yeah.
I am so invested in helping you solve it, right? Or like being supportive. But then when you have your own problems, it's almost like we have like this blind spot with ourselves.
That's
And
true.
learning to, it's almost like, I don't know, do we think that we're selfish for focusing on ourselves more? Or, um, gosh, I don't know. I think that maybe, when you have to solve someone else's problem, you're not actually attached to the outcome. And therefore, you go at it 100% because you're not really worried if it works out or not, because it's not on you. But it's funny because you'll go and give your 100% to solve this other person's problem. But when it's our own, we're so afraid of failing at whatever it is and whatever that means for that particular situation.
Mm.
But we're almost like afraid to really show up for ourselves, because if we really show up and it doesn't work, well, then we're fucked, or we think so anyway.
No, I hear you 100%. Like when it comes to us personally, yeah, there is this blind spot, and that's the hardest part. You know, that's why I think maybe I cling to the artistic expression as much as I do, because just like you said, just being is that creative aspect. It's just like interacting with the universe is the ultimate creative aspect that we can have. You know, because then we're things will be as they be. But
Yeah.
I found that through creative means, writing music or drawing or painting, whatever else I do, I can gauge my own progress, mental progress that's maybe tackling a problem or tackling an issue that I have within me, and
Yeah.
it's always interesting to see that reflection back, because I live in this, not in the city, but I live in the, they call it the country. We have a nice little yard. We do our chickens. We got some eggs. We got a little garden. So nice little simple lifestyle. So I don't, and especially now, I don't get to reflect with a lot of people, in person or just in conversation. So it's like it's hard to see yourself through others, and it's hard to see yourself at yourself because you
Yeah.
can't see yourself ever. So
Right.
that's where I'm just like, maybe my place of help is that reflection, is being able to see that reflection. In the past, I looked for relationships to do that, to being with a woman and being really close and intimate, and sharing those wounds and pains and saying, here's who I am, and what might come of it, who knows. But
Right.
but now I've been celibate for a good 7 years now, and just really working on myself and trying to not even depend on anybody else to be
Yeah.
an individual, to be a sovereign, a free person, so then I don't have to bring that baggage onto people. But
Right.
perhaps that is not the right approach.
Well, so I love that you brought this up, because this actually, gosh, I wish I had my journal. I'll regurgitate what I remember from it. But so what I've realized is, like, so I've only been in 3 relationships, but they've all been long term. A
Mhm.
marriage, another long term relationship, and then another long term relationship that I just got out of.
Mhm.
And each one has gotten better and better in terms of like me being able to be more communicative and patient and vulnerable and more relaxed into my feminine energy, right? But what I realized was, in relationships, especially intimate relationships, are the almost the fast lane to triggering your work or your traumas. Because once, of course, you have your honeymoon phase and everything's fine, everything's great. But then it's like, oh my God, this is triggering me, and this pisses me off, and this makes me behave this way, or this is making me feel jealous or angry or resentful or whatever. And all of those, like, the relationship is this perfect container for bringing up your shit, dangling it in your face. And if you're willing to sit with it and look at it, especially with the help of another person, it takes 2 willing, loving human beings who are in it together to go, hey, like, when you, and it's not you did this and you made me feel this way, how dare you? It's, when you did this, I noticed I felt this way.
Mhm.
Like, let's examine that together. And it's our job as an individual to examine, why do I think that way? Why did I feel that way? Why was that my reaction? And I feel this way, but is that right?
Mhm.
Is it true? Right? Like, for me personally, everything in my mind is worst case scenario. So it's like, oh, that person is definitely just being a fucking asshole on purpose, or like I've had to undo believing that everyone has an ulterior Jesus Christ, an ulterior
Mhm.
manipulative motive.
Mhm.
And so, like, undoing that and going, why do I think that that's what that person did? Could it be that they just by accident left the door open by accident? Or do I think that they're just doing it to be an asshole? Right? So relationships, I think there is a lot of work to be done on your own. But the thing is, A Course in Miracles says, the ego believes, in my isolation, I find my salvation, which means the ego thinks, well, if I just keep myself safe from all the things that trigger me, then I'll be good.
Mhm.
But really, we need these triggering but safe, loving relationships to help us see the things that are going on inside of us. If we just stay trapped in our own echo chamber, we think everything's fine. Of course, we live with our own neuroses, but we don't get to see the parts that we need to fix, because we're the only ones that have to deal with it. So unless something gets bad enough for us to go, I don't like dealing with this in my own head anymore, how do we see it? We have to have that mirror, that reflection of another person. And it's not the other person necessarily doing anything wrong. Sometimes, of course, there's unhealthy relationships and toxic relationships, and those things are not good for us. But it's always an opportunity for us to go, get curious. Why am I feeling this with this person?
Mhm.
Right? So Mastin Kipp talks about the relationship being like the perfect opportunity and container for exploring the depths of that, because we can have all sorts of thoughts in our head, but when it comes time to actually, whoa, I'm going to really intimately and vulnerably explore this part, the dark, dusty corners of this emotion that I didn't even know I had, or this fear, or this wound that I didn't even realize that I have. And you can bring it to the light of the other person. And just like I said with my relationship with Rhett after my marriage, where I got to bring that to the surface and realize not only am I not being abandoned, but I'm being loved more, and I'm being understood. And this is okay. Whoa. Like, such massive healing takes place with that, right?
Oh,
so
totally.
There is healing that, you know, we have to do work on ourselves and sit with ourselves. And if we only give responsibility to the other person to help us heal, that's obviously not going to work either. But it's having a well-rounded practice of sitting with yourself, thinking about examining your own thoughts and feelings, questioning them all, not just accepting what you think. Just go, why do I think that way? Why do I feel that way? Is that the truth? These are questions I'm constantly asking myself in my head. I'm like, that was an interesting reaction that I had. Why did I do that? Is that really valid? You know? And then journaling, exploring everything, like that's our work. And the more we just get in touch with ourselves, honestly, not in a defensive way, just being curious about the experience that we're having, that's where you really get to learn and undo a lot of the things that we've learned, right? That's where you really experience a lot of growth and healing.
My gosh, you are a beautiful individual. Everything you said is so amazing. Thank you so much. And again, just kind of maybe inspired me into finding like a desire that I've hidden from myself for a long time. Because, you know, my friends have been asking me the same things. Like, what do you want? It's like, what is it that you actually want? Like you as well. And, you know, I don't have a desire materially speaking anymore. You know, it's just like, it is what it is. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But what you just mentioned, it is that inner work. It's that deeper work that I've been craving, I guess. Maybe that's what it is, to just, you know, to go to wherever the next spot is. Because I've taken myself as far as I can, and I can continue to keep doing, but I think it's time to just dissolve with somebody and just really start to inspect, you know, what it is that it makes us up as who we are.
And remember too that there's seasons. So right, like just like Earth shows us, there's our winters where we batten up the hatches and we just kind of like sit and rest and reflect, right? And then we've got our spring where, okay, we're waking back up, we're seeing new possibilities. We have summer where we're really thriving and enjoying just the lush, you know, feedback that we've gotten from the experience. And then we have fall where we're reflecting upon the year and getting prepared to rest and go dormant in the winter. So life happens that way too. It might not be totally in sync with the nature seasons, but we all have to go through like these periods of like massive creativity and output where we're just really like crushing it in life and we feel in the zone. And then we have periods where we kind of retreat, right? And we're spending more time learning, reading, reflecting, and we're more in touch with that. And then sometimes we have seasons where we're just like, what the hell is going on? Am I in a cocoon right now? Like I feel off. And maybe that lasts for a couple weeks sometimes where you're just like, man, I don't feel inspired. I call it the emotional hangover. I always used to think something must be wrong with me. Like I spent something like writing pages and just like super on fire and feeling great. And then all of a sudden it'd be like, where did that go? Who blew out my candle? What's that? Hello? Like where did my inspiration go? But during those times, I've learned to just, I'm in this season right now, and that's okay. And I'm not going to put pressure on myself or worry. I'm going to do the things that I know I still need to do: daily exercise, journaling, reading. And then when that inspiration comes back, run with it again. And I think that the same thing happens with relationships, right? Sometimes we go, all right, I was in the shit for a while with another person. And I, you know, like for example, I felt that in my last relationship, while it was mostly good, I kind of got off center a little bit, you know, when you're mixing energy with another person and they've got their own shit that they're working on and you've got yours, you kind of sometimes can get off balance. And so like for me right now, I'm in a period of time, kind of like what you've been in for the last chunk of time, it sounds like, which is like, I just need to, get back in touch with who's Becca? What does Becca want? Right? And examine the last 2 years and go, what happened there and what was good? What needed improvement? What do I like from that? What didn't I like from it? And what's my responsibility in the parts that I didn't like? What was my responsibility in the parts that I did like? And we constantly learn and grow and we take that into the next season, right? it's just experience. So try not to judge yourself for the seasons. We don't call winter bad. Winter is necessary. Winter is absolutely necessary. And then guess what? Spring comes, and without even trying, nature blooms itself, right? Grass turns green again. Flowers start growing. Leaves grow back on trees. So it's about bearing witness to your experience and being curious about it, not judging yourself for how you're feeling right now, trying to fix it, right? Take care of business, obviously, and always do your absolute best. But sometimes your absolute best means resting. Sometimes it means I have to take a nap right now. I was supposed to do leg day and deadlift 200 pounds, but my body is telling me you need to sleep. And that's part of the program, right?
Oh, totally. God, and thank you for putting into the same pictures, just nature, because yes, I'd say the same thing. Thank you for being here. Everything you're saying, I don't even need to talk anymore. You're just the complete embodiment of what my message is, and you're just repeating it back. So thank you so much. It's exactly what I needed to hear personally. It's been magical, and I completely agree, especially with the seasons. I feel like we're coming into spring and all that stuff, and then the corona came in, and I was like, "Ooh, second winter."
Yeah. But you know what? Even with something like that, I look at it and I go, that's just nature doing its thing, right? Nature has forest fires, earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes. Destruction is part of it. Again, if you take the judgments out of it, we go, oh my God, how horrible that there was a forest fire. Nature it goes, well, we're overgrown over here. So let's wipe that out and get a clean slate. And forest fires are things that burst open new pine cones and make new trees. And we had to get rid of all that brush that all the trees were choking each other or whatever. And there's no sunlight down to the bottom. One of my favorite quotes is by William Shakespeare, and it's, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So we can look at something like a virus that goes across the planet and, kills off part of the herd. But in nature, that is so normal and necessary. And it's not good or bad. It's just like, wow, we have 8 billion people on the planet now, and we are over pollution. There's more pollution than ever before. We're overpopulated. And so as far as the universe is concerned, that's just checks and balances. And we only judge it if we are zoomed in on this like microcosmic moment where we're like, it's bad if somebody dies. But to the universe, it's infinite. Life never ends. It's constant. It's like a video game. Grandma Betty dies, but people die every day and people are born every day. And we're all just life. So it might be the loss of Grandma Betty. To humans, it's the loss of Grandma Betty, but the birth of baby Bob, right? But to the universe, it's just Betty and Bob are the same thing. Just like the fern over there is Grandma Betty, because it's just life. So when you can relax in that, you go, oh man, we're all going to die anyway. Everything's fine. Like, just live your life as best as you can in every moment. And that's the whole point. And yes, you can dive deeper into different levels and different consciousness. And that's all fun. Just don't put pressure on yourself about it.
God, I love you so much. Like, you are the light of my light. You're amazing.
Hey, but I love you too.
Oh, thank you very much. I know you have to go very soon, so and I know you already covered this just now, talking about death. But can you explicitly talk about death and how your relation to it, and what it means to you, what death means to you?
So, when I hear people say like they're really afraid of death and they think about their mortality a lot, I've never connected with that. I've never felt fearful of death. Obviously, I don't want to like explode in a car accident on the bridge or anything. Nobody wants to be in pain. But when I think about death, the first thing that comes to mind is, and this is going to sound maybe pathetic, but the only thing that I care about is my dog going to be okay? Oh. That's like the first thing, because I know that the way that, at least for me personally, the way that I've lived my life, the people that I love know without a shadow of a doubt that I absolutely loved and cared for them. I don't think that I would die and I would feel like, oh my gosh, something was left unsaid. So I know, to me, it's like humans can understand like, oh, she passed away. But to me, it's like, if I died, if my plane went down, right? And my dog was just left at home and then I never showed up again, I would feel this tremendous guilt. But other than that, I feel like, you know, J.K. Rowling has a quote that says, to the organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. So, and I'll insert another quote there. Alan Watts talks about if you can imagine going to sleep and then never waking up again, right? Well, being born is like waking up without ever having gone to sleep. So it's just it's just your consciousness being sent to another realm, right? Like if my physical body dies here, well, my energy, while I might not still be embodying Becca Switzer, whenever my consciousness is still going to go on in a different form. So I don't fear death. I think that it's going to be just interesting, like, like a big remembering, like, oh, I'm back in wherever I am, wherever I have always been, you know? Life is like this big dream and we're in this big playground right now, which again is why we need to not put so much pressure on ourselves, because we're just alive and then we're gonna die, and then who knows what happens after. We don't really know. Nobody really knows. So again, just try to be curious about it, and understanding that you're just gonna die someday kind of takes the pressure off of a lot of stuff, really.
Doesn't it? Like, I have some things written on my mirror, and one of the things is it's that, you know, one day you're gonna die, and it serves for that freedom. Yeah, it's like, enjoy the moment. Like, stuff is gonna happen. Stuff is always gonna happen, and then you know the ultimate destination is death. So why are you rushing toward death?
Bingo.
Just enjoy this fucking thing that's happening. It's all in the process.
Right.
My gosh, everything you're saying, spot on. I mean, Alan Watts, first of all, thank you. Yeah, Abraham Hicks, amazing. William Shakespeare. I mean, I haven't had anybody quote me that ever. So thank you. Do you personally listen to or follow Ram Dass at all?
You know, I really haven't listened to or read much of his stuff. Like, I know little quotes here and there, and I should dive into it, but I haven't really gotten into a lot of his stuff. I've a lot of Alan Watts, Alan Cohen, Mike Dooley. I love his perspective. Ramtha was the first book I ever read. White Book by Ramtha. Ramtha it's Jay-Z something is the actual name of the author, but kind of like Abraham Hicks, this woman channels an entity, allegedly, named Ramtha. And when I was 25, I don't even know, I hate to use this term, it seems like a loaded term, but I feel like I began having a spiritual awakening. Again, I hate using terms like that, but I felt like I had this like stirring in my soul, like something out, there's more out there for me. Like there's more out there. And one time I remember, this is going to be a weird thing to tell, but I was squatting down at my fridge, opened the door, and I was looking for something, and out of my mouth came, and I didn't even say it myself, it just out of my mouth comes the sentence, "Love is so much more than what you've experienced here." And I was like, what just happened? And things were just kind of happening, and I was being drawn to like books and things like that. And that was one of the first books that I read, and it really helped me understand like existentialism as a human. Like, you're just here to be, like, fucking relax. And I loved it. And so that led me into some more Mike Dooley stuff, Notes from the Universe, which I love. Who else do I listen to quite a bit of? A ton of Alan Watts. I just really like his stuff and his lectures.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And yeah, Alan Watts, just listen to him, just his accent. I think he's one of the greatest just mouthpieces. He says such great things. He's so good at explaining things and just create this visual landscape. And I think from him I went to Ram Dass a little bit, because I think that I listened to everything by Alan Watts and I was like, ah. And then I think there's a connection between him and Ram Dass, and I started going down his route, and I was like, ooh, this too is amazing.
What's your favorite book by Ram Dass? I'll read it.
Favorite book by Ram Dass. I know there's a newer one that they've released, but right now I'm just listening to all of his audio lectures and all of his because he's got like 45 years of just speaking. So I found a podcast that's I think he was still alive. He passed away, I think this year or last year. But they've been just compiling all of his teachings on this podcast, just called Ram Dass Here and Now, which the book Here and Now is pretty good. It's his famous one. But the podcast just really dives deep into just a whole bunch of his ideas, and I'm just enjoying the exploration, just tagging along. Because up until this point, at least, again, I don't know where I'm at. I am where I am, and spirituality has definitely been huge in my life, for many years. And it's really hard to even have language to understand what is happening. It's like I find myself very balanced now. Balance has been very important to me, and to be present here in the physical realm, but as well as being there in the spiritual, and exploring that whole side of reality. And just even how things are starting to reflect back to me, just the people that I meet, the occurrences, the art, whatever it is, there's things that are creating a pattern that I'm wondering, like, what is this all about, And just listening to him, it's unlocked some. I guess he's been able to put those experiences into words and ideas that I can finally maybe just kind of grab onto and be like, oh, so that's what that is. So that's where I'm at. So that's where I can maybe put a little more focus into, in order to, I don't know, whether go to the next place or just enjoy whatever's happening, or what I can focus on. So,
well, something that comes to mind, and I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
Well, I was going to say, remember that the universe and all that is we're already a part of it, and we're automatically, like, our inner self, our higher self, whatever you want to call it, our soul, our spirit, is always connected to that. It's connecting our mind, which is actually more of a passive activity, I think, than an achievement. It's more of an allowing than an achieving, which is tuning into, again, words kind of fail, but it's tuning into what you're already divinely connected to. This magic, this mystery, this like power of the universe where we can manifest anything that we want. It's when you feel connected to that, whether it's through your flow. Like for me, it's harder through like meditation. I'm not very good at it, but when I'm in a flow state is when I'm like speaking. Like sometimes I get into times where I'm speaking and I'm like, where is this coming from? And it's coming out and I'm like, holy shit, right? Or I'm typing and I'm just like, oh my God, I haven't even had these thoughts before, but they're coming out. So whatever that is for you, for some people it's music, right? Or art or whatever, but it's connecting to that and just realizing that whatever comes out of that it's just a creative process. It's more of an allowing instead of working to achieve to get there. It's just settling into what already lives inside of your heart and allowing that to come out. So it's less about working toward it or trying to get there. And it's just allowing yourself to be and to flow.
Amen. This is I can't say it's my favorite, but it's my favorite. This has been my favorite conversation, and it's incredible. I appreciate you being here and sharing your divinity with me and all of my listeners, because truly I can see it loud and clear, just present through every single word you say, in your eyes and in the way you carry yourself. It's beautiful. So I thank you. Before you go, because I know you have just a few minutes, is there anything you'd like to leave the world with? Any ideas, any final thoughts?
One thing that's been a constant reminder to me is always, wherever you are at right now and whatever it is that you're trying to achieve or experience in your life, if you can't connect the dots in your logical mind quite yet, but you feel that feeling, you have that vision, just remember that one of my favorite mantras, two mantras actually, one of them that I was going to say is, there's always more to be revealed. And what that means is just be patient. Hold the vision of whatever it is that you want in your mind, and obviously show up and take steps. But just remember that you don't know who, what, or what experience, circumstance, person, opportunity is going to show up into your life and change everything. Think about where you were a year ago today, and all of the things that have transpired, big and small, for your career, your relationships, your artistic pursuits, your health, right? Just again, enjoy that slow process. And I like to look at plants again. I'm going to go again with nature, but she teaches you everything.
She does.
If you look at plants, like I was actually on mushrooms a couple weeks ago, sitting in my front yard.
Nice.
And I was like, what do you have to teach me today? And I was looking, and I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but I'll rephrase it a little bit. So I was sitting there thinking, like, how much I try to force even other people, I push other people too hard, I think sometimes. And my expectations are always very high, and I push myself very hard, and I try to force the end result. But I was sitting there in the grass, and I was looking, and the tree in my front yard is this, I don't even know what it is. It's this beautiful flowering tree, but it was bare as shit like 3 weeks ago. But as I was laying under the tree, I was looking, and I was like, oh my God, it was starting to bloom. And I'm like, holy shit. I was looking at other trees around me, and it was like seemingly overnight, there were just leaves and buds, right? And the grass was green. And I was like, oh my God. And what I realized was, if you just relax and keep plugging away and not put so much pressure on yourself, the grass will grow itself. Like, you are going to come across or develop or find the connection that you need. Like, you just need to be patient, right? Allow nature to take its course. We're not separate from nature. We're no different than the grass growing itself in the front yard, but we have to just allow nature to take its course. And sometimes we think, well, it's not happening fast enough. Where's my soulmate? Where's my $1 million? Where's my bestseller on Amazon, or the right? But if you just keep doing the things that you feel guided to do, and you don't worry about the timeline, there's always more to be revealed, and your life will take shape, right?
That's gorgeous.
So, and then my last mantra, I always love sharing this one. What is meant for me will never miss me. I love thinking about that anytime I'm worried about something. It's like, look, what's meant for me is going to find me no matter what, right? So just relax. Like, life is meant to be enjoyed. It's not meant to be this giant puzzle to solve where you put pressure yourself and I need to be enlightened and I need a six-pack and I need a twin flame and I need to, it's like, just live your life and see where that takes you. Do your best, be curious, learn, right? And the rest will take care of itself.
Amen. I'm gonna put that on my mirror along with all my other stuff. I'm gonna put that on there because that's beautiful words to live by. Honestly, thank you so much. I appreciate everything. Absolutely. I appreciate the whole thing. I'm going to sign off. Thank you, listeners, for being here with us. We love you dearly. Hopefully this has been as beneficial for you as it has been for me. And I will be seeing you later.
Sounds good.